Thank you so much. So I don't know, Neha, Jessica, if you want to introduce yourselves and you can take it away.
Yeah, that sounds good. Go ahead, Jessica.
Okay, I'll introduce myself first and Neha can go. But hi, everybody. My name is Jessica. I'm one of the current Leadership Development Fellows. So I started in July. Some of my background is that I got my undergrad at University of Michigan in biopsychology, cognition, and neuroscience. I was originally going down the clinical route and ended up getting my master's in healthcare administration at University of Illinois, Chicago. And then was in kind of more of the provider side and process improvement during my master's program, but then switched over to the payer side and have been loving it. So that's a little bit of my background.
Great. My name is Neha. I was a Leadership Development Fellow last year, so before Jessica and then her current co-fellow Karen. And my background is I went to University of Michigan for undergrad and I had a health policy focus. And then after that, I moved to DC, worked for a few years for a company that was bought by Optum. So I did healthcare consulting with the providers, so working with a lot of hospitals and health systems. And then after that, went back for my master's in public health back to University of Michigan, and then took the fellowship role in, what was that, 2020, I believe. So I feel like all the years are blending together during COVID, but, and then after my 1-year fellowship, accepted a full-time role as a senior consultant on the value-based care team, working on both Medicaid and individual and family markets. So the ACA marketplace, there's a bunch of different names you can call it, but ended up in the value-based care space after the fellowship. We can go ahead and share our slides that we'll be presenting off of. Just kind of giving an overview of HCSC and the fellowship. And as Jessica and I are presenting, feel free to jump in with questions or put them in the chat and we can make sure that we are observing that so we can answer them real time, but we'll definitely make sure to leave time for questions at the end as well. And we will make sure to send these slides out too, so you guys can have access to these resources. All right, well, we can go ahead and get started. Perfect. So just to give a little overview about Healthcare Service Corporation, I think it can be a little confusing because we are the enterprise company for Blue Cross Blue Shield across 5 states. So we are in Illinois, Montana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. So we are part of the Blue Cross Blue Shield family. We are the largest customer-owned health insurer in the nation, which I thought was kind of cool. We don't answer to investors or a board. It's very much member-owned. So a lot of our work reflects that, where we really do put the members first, given how the company is set up. We are founded in 1936 with serving over 17 million people across those 5 states. And then we do employ over 24,000 people across 60 local offices within the 5 states. The Leadership Development Fellowship position specifically is located in Chicago, since that's where our headquarter offices are. So the position is Chicago based, but it is a hybrid. So you go in the office 2 days a week and work from home 3 days a week. So just to give you some background, Jessica's going to go more in depth about the actual fellowship, the kind of projects you'll work on and things like that. But just a high level overview, we've had 5 cohorts of fellows to date. So everyone has had a different background, experience, and interest. I think that's clear just even with Jessica and myself introducing ourselves, different schools, different work experiences, things like that. Of all the 5 cohorts, everyone who has wanted to take a position, which was almost 100% of cohorts, has stayed with Blue Cross Blue Shield and is still with HCSC and is still with the company now. So it's a very high retention rate. And the fellowship was developed and I think has succeeded in becoming a high potential talent pipeline for the company, specifically within both the individual and family market strategy space and the value-based care space. So those are kind of the different teams that you can rotate with during the fellowship. I think I'm not going to read you guys the quotes because you guys can all see them, but I think what's really important to note here is we have quotes from the president of one of the lines of business who actually started this fellowship, and she has really, really invested in this program, and you have regular exposure to her as well as the other leaders you see on the slide. So for example, Jessica has regular check-ins with Lauren, and she's really invested in making sure fellows get to work on those high profile initiatives. Dr. Hannah Alves Jackson is our chief medical officer. We in the past have had 2 fellows each year. Dr. Jackson recently started with HCSC, and within her first year of being here, realized how important fellows were, and she actually funded a 3rd fellow. So we are expanding our fellowship cohort to 3 fellows because Dr. Jackson is really excited to add another fellow. And I've gotten to work with her over the past year and worked on a lot of projects with her, and she's fantastic. And then lastly is Taylor Zader, who is an executive director right under Lauren. Like Lauren, she has been a champion of this program since day one. And she is really pivotal to the fellowship and helping you choose rotational programs or rotational projects that are really important to you and fit with your interests. So all 3 of them are highly invested leaders within the fellowship. And then just to share some background of past fellows. So like I mentioned, we've had 5 cohorts with different backgrounds. We listed some of the schools here on the right, but there's so many more. So Andrea McAuliffe was a fellow 2 years before me, and she is actually now my manager. So you get to really work with current and past fellows closely and throughout your career. And she really enjoyed the exposure to the different areas of the business as well as the relationship building within the fellowship. And then Chris Bryan, who is a fellow before me, and he is one of my peers, another senior consultant on the team. He really liked the growth opportunities and mentorship that the fellowship brought. Along with the exposure to multiple areas. I think you can probably see a theme in what people pull out about what they enjoy about the fellowship. Perfect. So Jessica, I can go ahead and turn it over to you if you want to kind of talk more in depth about the fellowship and the position posting.
Yeah, of course. So a little bit about the position. The fellowship's a 1-year program, rotational, and it's mainly focused in strategic roles on both sides of both lines of business. So if you have an interest in healthcare strategy, this is definitely a good role for you. And then some of like the key tenets of the fellowship are you get great exposure to senior leadership. Like Neha said, I have, check-ins with Lauren, who's like a president, and then, directors and obviously managers. So each level you get to really build relationships with people. Ability to influence strategy. You have many different opportunities to present either like business cases or discover, new markets and figure out what we should do in the future. And it really feels like things that you work on are important. And then you also gain a broad exposure to the organization because in this fellowship, you have the ability to rotate around. You're able to float in a way that a normal position wouldn't be able to. You can kind of say like, I have interest in this area, and you can potentially find a project somewhere that like you're not housed. For some other like additional skills that you can develop during this fellowship are getting hands-on experience, working on high-profile projects that touch, many leaders in the organization, working across different lines of business, which is really important because it is a relationship-based organization. It's really important to, network and build those relationships with different people to succeed in the future. And then being able to do multiple rotations is really important, at least for me. I didn't have much payer experience before. I was more provider based, and coming to the payer side was a little bit scary because I didn't know, like coming in and being like, I specifically want to do this role, I wouldn't really have been sure. So it's nice that I get to try a few different things before, choosing what I want to do permanently. Some skills in strategic planning. Like I said, a lot of the projects are strategy focused and exposure to leadership. So some of the examples of projects that you can work on during the fellowship, obviously these are not the only things that you can work on, but we tried to touch on different things past and current fellows are working on. I'll let Neha like kind of touch on some value-based care stuff after, because I haven't done that rotation yet. But I, just so that you guys know, I'm still in my individual and family market rotation. It's my first rotation. And then I'm switching to value-based care in a month or so. So I'll speak more to the individual and family market side. But in value-based care, a large part of what they work on is program design. So creating new value-based care programs to be implemented by providers. Product design, so figuring out like what benefits and counties we should expand to in years to come, and anything new related to our plans in each state. So you get a lot of, you can get a lot of creativity there and working with different people. Network innovation, business strategy, kind of more broad, but business case development. I can give an example here. One of the projects that I'm working on is analyzing a new market that became available in 2020, where employers can give money to employees to buy their own plan on the marketplace. And hopefully in the end, I'll be able to develop a business case to present to the president, Lauren, of our line of business, which could lead to, a lot of money being invested in the market. So it's something that, I was able to lead as a fellow, and hopefully it'll gain traction across the organization. And then kind of some skills, we touched on this a little bit before, but being able to touch program design, get some profit and loss experience, some finance experience is always important, strategic thinking, data analysis, and then obviously project collaboration. So to give you a better idea about the fellowship timeline, we're kind of in the beginning where we opened our application, which is good, starting the interview process. And once you start the fellowship, it's around the beginning of July of next year. So you get a little bit of time after graduating and starting your job. So once you start, in the first week or two, you have orientation first on the first day, obviously with like HR and training and everything. And then once you come into the office, the past fellows, which will be Karen and I, will set up a whole orientation for everyone and giving 101s on any points of the 2 lines of business that you might touch on in your rotations. So just trying to get you oriented to the different teams that you'll work with, and kind of just figuring out the layout of the organization. So since it's such a large organization, it's you have to try to figure it out over time. I'm still figuring it out right now. But then about 2 weeks in, you get assigned your rotations by Taylor, who was one of the directors, and Claire is another director. They kind of have one-on-ones with you and figure out what your background was, what rotation might fit you best first. And they'll kind of just send an email being like, this is your first rotation. And then you go from there and get assigned your team and assigned projects. So after that, you get a list of coffee chats and can start to meet with people as you ease into your first projects. And then hopefully at the end of the fellowship, you want to stay and you can prepare for a potential permanent role and figuring out which team you want to be on. So this timeline was more of what I was before, the recruitment timeline. We've been attending some career fairs and stuff like this. And now that the application's posted, we've been just starting interviews, and it's kind of an open process where we accept applications for a while. So no one's behind or anything, but we're going to extend offers by February and fellows start in July. So very simple timeline there. And as you can see, we have the link to the application below here, the email of our recruiter. And then Karen and I are doing a lot of work with the recruitment. So if you guys ever want to meet one-on-one with us, like learn more about us, want to learn more about you, you can always reach out and we can have a quick little chat. And obviously Neha and Haley are always here for you guys too, but Karen and I are doing a lot of the main recruitment work this year. So if anyone has any questions, we're here for the rest of the time.
Yeah, and happy to chat more about specific projects too. I know that was a big question for me as I was applying, really trying to understand what kind of work I'd be doing since the payer space was new. So happy to dive more into kind of the day-to-day and what it looks like to be a fellow. Jessica, do you want to go ahead? Yeah, I was going to say, you went through the process more recently than I did. If you want to talk through it, and then I can kind of add in anything.
Yeah, so the application itself is just like any other job application where you just submit your resume and cover letter. And from there, you'll do an HR phone screen just to get kind of like an initial pass at your like the basic requirements. And then the interview process includes a behavioral interview and then 2 case interviews. One's a verbal case. I would compare it more to like a consulting case interview just to see like the way that you structure your thoughts and you know, come to a conclusion or recommendation. And the data case is the other one, and we'll send you a set of data a few days before the interview and have you present a few slides on, we give a list of like kind of questions that comes with the data. So being able to just present that again, like show the way that you thought through the answers and, you know, staying organized with your thoughts are kind of like the main points there.
And we
So
definitely don't expect. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then a potential final interview with, you know, like the higher level people if they're available, but.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we don't expect anyone to be subject matter experts within health insurance or the payer space, because we know this is a fellowship. I think just basic understanding and understanding how you will ask questions and really formulate your thoughts and how you can communicate and present out are really what we're looking for. And it looks like there's a hand raised. I can't see who it is. I just
looks like Mammy.
Okay.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello. Thank
Yes,
you so much
Yes.
for your presentation. It's very informative. I do have a question about the interview process. You mentioned that there will be a data analytics or data analysis portion of it. Are there specific programming languages or software that you're looking for the applicants to have? Could you please speak to that a little bit more? Thank you.
It's just Excel, so nothing crazy. Yeah, we'll just send like over a data spreadsheet on Excel, and you just have to pull together some answers. I don't know, Neha, if you want to pitch in anything else.
Yeah, it's a basic Excel function. So it's not like we're going to watch you do the data. It's just making sure we can have you manipulate the data to kind of pull out analysis and answering the questions. And then part 2 of that is, can you put those analyses into slides and thoughtfully present them out to the interviewer?
Understood. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And what's kind of cool about it is I think both the data and verbal cases are very similar to projects or problems that you're faced with in the fellowship too. I don't know, Jessica, if you'd agree with that. It might be different for you guys this year, but I felt like it was good preparation.
No, I agree. I was like kind of surprised that like work related to it more so than I thought.
Looks like Abdul Ramin.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. I just have a few questions, to ask. I don't know if this fellowship is open to like foreign students or foreign graduates, or do you have to be like a citizen to be able to participate or apply? Then do you accept like OPT students that have their OPT like after they graduate? Do you accept that? And then finally, is there any form of like maybe remuneration or payment with this fellowship?
Yeah.
I'm trying to double check.
Okay,
Go ahead,
I know
Neha.
off the top of my head, we don't sponsor folks, so I'm not familiar with OPT, so that's something we could potentially check, and it seems like Jessica may be checking that, but usually we don't sponsor foreign students, unfortunately. But this is a full-time paid salaried role, so you're making like a consultant salary. It's not like an internship or unpaid fellowship by any means. You are still a full-time salaried employee with HCSC as part of this fellowship.
Yeah, it seems like I don't think that we accept OPT either, but we have also a general career site. Like if you want to see if any of our other like roles have differences in that, I think it's just kind of the point of the fellowship is even though it's a year long, or people to stay for a long time. So I don't know if that's the logic, but yeah, I think that's the answer.
You mentioned the general HR site. Would you be willing to put that in the chat maybe?
Of course, I'll find that right now. I think it's this hcsc.com/careers. But let me put it in the chat right now.
Thank you.
Anything else we can be helpful in answering? And again, we'll send this out and follow up. So you'll have our emails as well as other fellows. So if you
Great.
think of anything later, feel free to email it as well.
Yes.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate folks thinking about our fabulous students, and I like to think of them as talent. And I hope that there's some interest and you get some of our talent over at the organization.
Thank you. And
We
thank
do
you for
too.
helping us set this up. And yep, the link to the application is going to be in these slides right here. It's
Great.
hyperlinked under the application link. I think someone just asked. So
Okay.
we'll get these slides out right after this so you have the application ready.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.